December 7th, 1941, 7:48 a.m., Ford Island, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The tropical sun glints off the calm waters of the harbor, where the mighty battleships of the U.S. Pacific Fleet lie moored like slumbering titans. Sailors aboard the USS Arizona stir in their bunks, the air thick with the scent of salt and diesel, the distant hum of seagulls piercing the Sunday morning haze. You can almost feel the gentle sway of the deck underfoot, hear the clink of coffee mugs in the galley as crewmen shake off the night's rest. But high above, unseen, the drone of engines builds, a swarm of Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, Nakajima B5N Kates, and Aichi D3A Vows slicing through the clouds like vengeful shadows. Pilots in leather helmets grip their controls, hearts pounding with the weight of empire's ambition. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's daring plan unfolds from the carrier Akagi 230 miles north, a surprise strike to cripple America's naval power in one audacious blow. On the ground, radar operators at Opana Point dismiss the blips as friendly B-17s. No alarms wail. Laughter echoes from the officers' club. Then, the first torpedo slices into the water, silent, deadly, racing toward Battleship Row. Explosions rip the air, flames erupt, men scream as steel twists and shatters. The unthinkable has begun. The first Kate torpedo planes scream low over the harbor, wings rocking in the warm updrafts. Their pilots release at point-blank range, 50 feet above the water, sending slender silver shapes knifing toward the anchored line of battleships. You hear the metallic whine as the first strikes home against the USS Oklahoma. A dull boom, then another. Water erupts in white geysers beside the hull. Men on deck freeze for a heartbeat, coffee cups still in hand, before the world explodes. The Oklahoma lurches violently, listing hard to port as successive hits tear into her side. Sailors scramble across tilting decks, boots slipping on oil-slicked steel. Shouts rise above the roar, "This is no drill! This is no drill!" Above Ford Island, Zeros peel off in tight formation, machine guns chattering. They strafe the rows of P-40 Warhawks parked wingtip to wingtip at Wheeler and Hickam Fields. Canvas covers shred. Fuel tanks ignite in brilliant orange blooms. Ground crews dive for cover as bullets stitch the tarmac, sparks dancing like fireflies gone mad. On Battleship Row, the USS West Virginia takes 2 torpedoes almost simultaneously. She begins to settle, flames licking up from the waterline. Sailors leap into the harbor, some burning, others swimming through oil that clings like black tar. The air thickens with smoke, the acrid bite of cordite, the metallic tang of blood. Yet the Arizona, moored just ahead, still rides high and proud, her 8 14-inch guns silent. Crewmen rush to battle stations, anti-aircraft guns swiveling skyward. They fire blindly into the swarm descending upon them. Then comes the sound no one will ever forget, a high, piercing whistle. A single Val dive bomber, wings folding back like a hawk in stoop, releases its armor-piercing bomb. It plummets straight toward the Arizona's forward magazine. Impact. A blinding flash, a thunderclap that flattens men a mile away. The forward turrets lift skyward as if on strings, then vanish in a roiling pillar of black smoke and orange flame. The ship's back breaks. In seconds, 1,177 souls are gone, most never knowing what struck them. The harbor becomes a cauldron of fire and ruin. And still, the waves keep coming. Smoke coils thick and black across the harbor, blotting out the morning sun. The Arizona is gone, reduced in an instant to a burning skeleton,
her forward half torn open like a cracked eggshell, flames roaring hundreds of feet into the sky. Twisted metal rains down. Oil from ruptured tanks spreads across the water in iridescent slicks, igniting into floating infernos that trap swimmers between fire and drowning. You feel the heat even from shore. Sailors on the nearby Vestal, a repair ship moored alongside the Arizona, are hurled overboard by the blast wave. Some cling to wreckage, coughing through smoke that tastes of scorched paint and flesh. Others, trapped below decks on the sinking West Virginia and Oklahoma, hammer desperately against watertight doors as compartments flood. On the Oklahoma, now capsized at a sickening angle, hundreds of men are pinned inside the upturned hull. Faint pounding echoes from within the steel tomb, Morse code tapped out with wrenches and tools. We are here, trapped, air running out. Rescue parties form instantly, cutting through hull plates with acetylene torches while Zeros roar overhead, strafing anything that moves. At Hickam Field, hangars erupt one after another. B-17 flying fortresses, freshly arrived from the mainland, burn on the apron before they can even taxi. Pilots and mechanics race across the tarmac, dragging wounded comrades clear as machine gun bullets chew the ground at their heels. A young lieutenant, blood streaming from a scalp wound, grabs a .50 caliber Browning from a wrecked P-40 and swings it skyward, firing until the barrel glows red. Back in the harbor, the Nevada, her decks ablaze, slips her moorings under the heroic command of Lieutenant Commander Francis Thomas. She steams slowly down the channel, anti-aircraft guns blazing defiance, drawing fire away from the crippled fleet. Japanese pilots dive on her relentlessly, bombs bursting against her superstructure. Yet she fights on, a lone battleship threading through the inferno toward open water. The second wave is already inbound, another 170 aircraft streaking south from the carriers. And on those carriers, Admiral Yamamoto waits in silence aboard the Akagi, studying the first damage reports. Victory seems within grasp. But something stirs in the smoke-choked distance.
7:55 a.m. becomes 8:54 a.m. The sky above Pearl Harbor darkens again, not with clouds, but with the relentless hum of the second wave. 170 Japanese aircraft, Zeros escorting more Kates and Vows, sweep in from the north, splitting into disciplined formations. The first groups target the airfields once more, ensuring no American fighters can rise to challenge them. At Ewa Field, Marine F-4F Wildcats sit helpless on the ground. Pilots sprint toward cockpits, only to be cut down by strafing runs. Hangars collapse in sheets of flame. Runways crater under bomb impacts. You taste the bitter smoke now, feel the ground shudder with each explosion. At Ford Island's seaplane base, PBY Catalinas burn at their moorings, wings folding into the water like dying birds. Crews who manage to get airborne are hunted mercilessly. Zeros pounce from above, 20mm cannons tearing through fabric and aluminum. Battleship Row remains the killing ground. The Nevada, still underway and defiant, draws a swarm of dive bombers. A 500-pound bomb crashes through her forecastle, detonating deep inside and sending a geyser of water and debris skyward. She slows, listing, but her guns never stop firing. 5-inch mounts and .50 caliber machine guns stitching black crosses across the sky. One vow spirals down in flames, trailing smoke like a funeral pyre. The California takes torpedoes and bombs in quick succession. She settles slowly by the stern, her crew fighting fires while water pours through gaping holes. Men below decks work in pitch darkness, sealing bulkheads by feel as the sea rises around them. Aboard the sinking Oklahoma, the tapping grows fainter. Torches still burn outside, rescuers cutting frantically,
but time is bleeding away with every trapped breath. Inside the hull, sailors share their last cigarettes, whisper prayers, sing snatches of the Star-Spangled Banner to keep courage alive. Then, high overhead, a handful of American planes finally claw into the air. A few P-40s from Haleiwa Field, pilots who heard the first explosions and raced to their dispersed aircraft, climb into the maelstrom. Lieutenants George Welch and Kenneth Taylor, guns blazing, tear into the Japanese formation. They claim several kills before fuel and ammunition run dry. For a fleeting moment, the attackers feel resistance, but the damage is already catastrophic. And far to the north, on the Akagi's bridge, Admiral Yamamoto receives the latest tally: 8 battleships hit, 4 sunk or capsized, airfields devastated. Yet his expression remains unreadable. He knows the real prize, the American aircraft carriers, is missing.
The second wave hammers on, relentless, until 9:45 a.m. Dive bombers plaster the dry docks and repair facilities at Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. Bombs crater the concrete aprons, collapse cranes, and ignite fuel depots in roaring fireballs that send black pillars twisting into the sky. You smell the sharp bite of burning aviation gasoline, mingling with the heavier reek of bunker oil. The Pennsylvania, flagship of the fleet, sits in dry dock, partially shielded but not spared. A bomb tears through her deck, killing dozens in a single stroke. Nearby, the destroyers Cassin and Downs burn fiercely side by side, their hulls buckling from secondary explosions. The Utah, an old target ship, once a battleship, rolls over completely in the shallows, trapping more men beneath her upturned keel. Amid the chaos, small acts of defiance multiply. Ensign Joe Taussig Jr. on the Nevada keeps his anti-aircraft battery firing even as shrapnel rakes his position. Aboard the sinking California, water tender First Class Elmer Bigelow dives repeatedly into flooded compartments to rescue trapped shipmates, earning the Medal of Honor posthumously. At Wheeler Field, a lone mechanic drags a .30 caliber machine gun onto a truck bed and opens fire on low-flying Zeros, his tracers stitching across the sky. Yet the arithmetic is merciless. 8 battleships damaged or sunk. Nearly 200 aircraft destroyed, most on the ground. Over 2,400 Americans dead or dying, another 1,000 wounded. The harbor is a graveyard of twisted steel and floating bodies. Oil slicks burn for days. Then, abruptly, the attackers break off. The last Vals and Kates wheel northward, engines fading into the distance. Silence falls, broken only by the crackle of flames, the cries of the wounded, the low groan of settling hulls. Aboard the Akagi, Admiral Yamamoto receives the final report from his air operations officer. The strike has achieved tactical surprise beyond expectation. Battleship Row lies in ruins. Yet 3 American fleet carriers, Enterprise, Lexington, Saratoga, are at sea, untouched. Fuel depots and submarine bases remain largely intact. The repair yards, though battered, still stand. Yamamoto lights another cigarette, staring at the charts. "I fear all we have done," he murmurs to his staff, "is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve." The words hang in the radio room like smoke. On Oahu, stunned survivors crawl from wreckage. Sailors pull comrades from the water. Medics triage the burned and broken on blood-soaked lawns. A young radioman at SINPAC headquarters taps out the urgent message to Washington: "Air raid on Pearl Harbor. X, this is not drill." The world shifts on its axis.
The harbor smolders into afternoon. Black smoke towers thousands of feet high, visible from miles away across Oahu. Rescue boats weave through the wreckage, pulling oil-soaked sailors from the water. ferrying the burned and broken to makeshift hospitals on Ford Island and the Tripler Army Medical Center. You hear the constant wail of sirens, the low moans of the wounded, the crackle of dying fires. Survivors stumble ashore, faces streaked with soot and tears. A young seaman from the Arizona, miraculously thrown clear by the blast, sits on the beach, staring at the burning hulk that was once his home. His hands tremble as he lights a cigarette with shaking fingers. Nearby, a Marine corporal cradles the body of his best friend, whispering, "We'll get them back for this. We'll get them back." In Washington, D.C., it is still December 7th evening. President Franklin D. Roosevelt sits in the Oval Office, listening as naval aides relay the grim details pouring in over secure lines. His face hardens with each report. The next morning, December 8th, he stands before a joint session of Congress, voice steady but laced with steel. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The chamber erupts, cheers mix with fury. Within the hour, the Senate votes unanimously for war. The House follows, with only one dissenting voice. America, divided by isolationism just days before, now unites in a single, terrible purpose. Across the nation, enlistment offices overflow. Young men line up in cities and small towns, trading civilian clothes for khaki. Factories that once built cars pivot overnight to tanks, bombers, Liberty ships. The sleeping giant stirs, then roars. In Tokyo, Prime Minister Hideki Tojo receives confirmation of the attack's success and Yamamoto's private misgivings. The admiral knows the carriers escaped. He knows the industrial might of the United States will soon turn against them. "We have won a battle," he tells his staff quietly, "but we may have lost the war." Back at Pearl Harbor, as dusk falls, the fires still burn. Searchlights sweep the blackened water. Divers descend into the Arizona's shattered tomb, beginning the grim task of recovery. The fleet is broken, but not destroyed. Submarines slip out under cover of darkness to hunt Japanese shipping. The undamaged carriers turn toward the enemy. From arrogance came assault. From assault came awakening. From awakening came resolve. A resolve that would carry across 4 years and 2 oceans, ending only above the ruins of another harbor far across the Pacific.